Hello guys, this is What Ifs here. This is going to be episode 1 of What If Bell Had Mjolnir. So, we start off in a small village near the border of Orario and the Northern Lands. The Northern Lands essentially being the place where Vikings and all of the Nordic gods are. And so, yeah, we start off with Bell being born. Bell's father was a Viking, or at least was before, but during one of their raiding expeditions, Bell's father had lost his arm, so he wasn't taken anymore. He was, essentially left there and, he settled in. Married a woman, which is currently Bell's mother, who is a bit of a druid or a herbalist in their own culture. So, yeah. Essentially, Bell gets taught from a very early age by his father how to properly wield a sword. And because Bell's father had to essentially, get used to fighting with one hand, he also made a sort of, his own type of, swordsmanship, which only used one hand. And so, Bell learned from that, although that's when Bell incorporated it so that he could actually use it in both hands. So, yeah. While Bell's father taught him how to properly, fight and all that, his mother taught him the difference about, herbs which can heal people and those which can kill them. That is, poisonous and healing herbs. Along with that, Bell's mother also showed him a tiny bit of yes, there you go. Nature magic. That being that she can control plants and all of that. So essentially the same thing which a druid could do. And so, Bale grows up in that village, playing with friends, his friends' war games and all of that. Until one day, a new threat arrives. That threat being, Westerners, or, more like knights who want to expand their empire. So, yeah. Essentially, an army of men-at-arms, archers, a couple of dozen of knights, and a lord, the lord of the castle which was near the border, raid their village. Bell's father sadly dies in the fighting, while Bell's mother, using her magic, is able to conceal both herself and Bell, along with two other children, in the forest. Now, the knights simply pass through them and don't notice them. And then, after the raid was over, they finally come out, seeing their village in utter ruins. Bell sees something, that something being the corpse of his father, while the other two children, which were much younger than Bell, with Bell currently being 9 years old, and the two children being 2 years old, both of them, Bell didn't cry as he saw his father's corpse. Instead, he simply took his father's sword and, sheathed it on his back. And after that, all four of them simply went ahead and left that area, going further north. And in this time, unbeknownst to Bell's mother, somebody was keeping an eye on Bell, that someone being a certain god of thunder. Yes. And so, that certain god of thunder, which probably all of you already guessed is Thor, since the entire idea of the What If, he sets certain challenges for Bell. Those challenges being that he has to kill some certain monsters in the north. And, essentially what happened is that when they got to a bigger, a town, a town with like proper walls and all that jazz. As they went in there, Belle's mother went to her sister, which was living in the town, along with her own husband, and Belle's cousin. And well, Belle's cousin was also trained in the, well, how do you say it? Yes, the art of war. Although instead of using short swords, he was more of a, how do you say it? Yes, more of a spear user. So, yeah, Belle got along with him pretty well, and that's when several, how do you call them again? I believe sages of the Nordic faith, that being, well, essentially, how do you call it again? Well, the belief in Valhalla and all the northern gods. I sort of forgot how it's called. But, well, they noticed something about Belle that is emitting a particular type of magic. Now, as they go ahead there, they actually see his mother. And at that point, the three sages which came to see Belle immediately bow their heads down, with Belle looking a bit confused. And well, that's when his mother simply tells them to come in. And that's when Belle simply hears about who his mother truly is. His mother is one of the most powerful druids in the entirety of the North, with how much magic she has, she can create an entire barren field into a sprawling forest. So, yeah, rather powerful. And she was actually the only reason why the northern kingdoms were actually capable of, well, surviving winter without any starvation or hunger. She was the one who made new forests and new patches of land where the villagers could, well, farm crops. And so, Bel gains a newfound respect for his mother. Although that's when his mother asked the sages why did they come here. Well, one of the head sage simply tells Bel's mother that using an artifact which they were given by the gods themselves, they actually saw that her son, Bel, had an extremely powerful aptitude for lightning magic. And now Bel's mother was actually intrigued because even though with how powerful her own magic was, she couldn't sense any, well, particular magic coming from Bel. And that's also what the sages told, because the magical artifact which they were given by the gods indicated that Bel's magic, or well, that Bel's magic affinity was with lightning, and that also he had an immense amount of mana. But neither the sages nor Bel's mother could feel any from coming from Bel. So yeah, that was a bit weird. But anyways, they took Bel back to their, well, essentially their, well, actually, yeah, I think it's called a temple, essentially, which worshipped the god of thunder, Zeus, along with several other major ones, like Loki, Odin, and yada yada yada. And so, when they came there, almost immediately, lightning from a clear sky, lightning strikes almost perfectly in a perfect circle around Bel. Now, all of the sages are surprised, along with Bel's mother, who was also tailing them. And essentially what happened after that is that the ground beneath Bel gave in. It completely collapsed. The sages were, well, extremely both horrified, surprised, and extremely fascinated by what just happened, because either that was Thor wanting to kill Bel, or that was Thor giving him praise. So yeah, but Bel had his father's sword on him, if any of you guys are wondering. And so, as he fell through the hole, which, remember, he was still 9 years old, although even though he was 9 years old, he was, well, I'm gonna say that he was 5.1 feet tall. And so, as he essentially fell down there, he used his father's, essentially his short sword, and immediately sprang it out of its sheath to, well, since he was in a dark cave and he heard something moving around. And now that's when essentially, how do you say it, torches which were extinguished became, well, how do you say it? Ah, right, ignited again. And, well, as Bell could now clearly see, he saw a gigantic spider, probably about 6 feet, well, that is 6 feet long and 2.5 feet, well, that is, no, 6.5 feet wide and 2.5 feet tall. So yeah, Bell was surprised by that, and he jumped out of the way before the spider could impale him with his fangs. And now, before the spider could turn around, Bell swung his sword and was able to cut off 3 of the spider's 8 legs, with the spider now losing balance on its left side. The spider quickly turned around and tried and lunged at Bell again, but before it could do anything major, Bell dodged again, cutting off its last leg on the left side. So yeah, the spider was now essentially a sitting duck, with Bell using his sword and cutting off the spider's head. And with that, Bell felt an earthquake, and that earthquake being a door which was simply being lowered. And after he went there, he saw lightning, that is just pure lightning, standing all around him. And in the middle of the room, he saw Thor, the god of thunder. Now, Bell didn't know who this was. He just saw essentially this. So, a person in armor from head to toe with a, well, with a hammer with pure lightning in his hand. And then Bell didn't exactly know who this was, because, well, in their little village they didn't even have any statues of Thor, so yeah. They did have one of Odin, but not of Thor. Although Bell's father did somewhat tell Bell how Thor looked like. So, yeah, although Bell still didn't recognize Thor. That's when Thor came up to Bell and asked him how did he feel while he finished his first, essentially, test. Bell asked, what does he mean by test? At that point, Thor starts laughing. As Thor looks Bell directly in his eyes and simply tells him that he is the god of thunder, Thor. With Bell, as soon as Bell heard that, he began to kneel, but before he could finish his kneeling, Thor interrupted him, simply telling him that there is no need to kneel, and that in 4 years' time, the second test, which Bell was going to have to go through, would happen in the exact same place. Well, not in the exact same place, but as Thor pondered a bit how exactly Bell was going to get to his next test, Thor reaches into one of his bags and pulls out a compass. Although a compass which Bell had never exactly seen before, instead of having the directions, that being west, south, north, and east, it had runes on it, with 9 runes. One of the runes had stopped, well, giving light, with that rune being Bell's first test. The other 8 runes were still dimly lit, and as Thor simply explained, every single test which Bell would get, one of those runes would start to shine. With Bell understanding what this meant, he nodded to Thor, and that's when Bell asked Thor, why is he going through all of this for a simple village boy? That's when Thor starts laughing and simply tells Bell that his magical affinity is for thunder. and he has such a high magical affinity for it that, well, some would be comparing it to even Thor's. So, yeah. And that was just when Bell was a child. When he actually grows up, his magical affinity for it and his mana is going to be a lot stronger and a lot more of it. So yeah, Thor tells that to Bell. And also Thor tells Bell that the main reason why he is doing this is, well, mainly because of Loki. Loki has begun taking most of the temples, and most of the actual warriors started worshipping Loki over Thor. Which I know doesn't make a lot of sense, but, well, Loki took the credit for what essentially, how do you call it, Bel's mother did. That being planted all of the forests and the fields, which allow the farmers to farm all sorts of products. And so that's why Loki's fame, well, basically skyrocketed. And that's why Thor was beginning to go weakened. Although, as Thor told Bel, before I would die, I promised myself that I would at least get a proper successor for Mjolnir. That's when Bel was wise-eyed. Mjolnir hasn't been the Mjolnir. Bel asks Thor, with Thor replying, is there any other? And well, at that point, Bel asks Thor why. Like, he knows that he has the magical affinity for lightning, even more so than Thor, but Bel still doesn't understand why he chose him. And that's when Thor simply tells him, because I knew your father. Your father was an excellent warrior, probably one of the best in all of the Northern Realms. With Bel being surprised, he knew that his father was an extremely good swordsman, but to be called one of the best by the God of Thunder was, well, a rather big accomplishment. And so, after their little chat, staircase opened up seemingly out of nowhere, and Thor told Bel to, well, go up to his mother. Bel did so, and he tried to bow again, but yeah, Thor wasn't having it, and actually zapped Bel at this point, so that Bel would, instead of bowing, just fall flat on his ass. So yeah, with Thor exclaiming that what did he say about bowing down to anyone? Even gods. You have enough power to, well, putting it rather simply, make quick work of most gods. Or, well, that he would have the power to essentially kill gods in the near future. Although with Bel almost immediately stating that he would never dare to kill a god. With Thor, when Thor hears this, he smiles and tells him, we will see. And so, after that little fateful encounter, Bel goes ahead and, well, goes back up to his family and the sages. And now, the staircase where it opened up on the surface was right in front of Thor's statue. And that's when the sages immediately, well, realized something. Thor intervened from the heavens to, well, make Bel fall through the ground to the secret caves beneath the temple. He also spoke to Bel, and now Bel came out from beneath the staircase below the statue of Thor. Yeah, the sages were ecstatic, asking Bel all sorts of questions until, well, Bel's mother came into the view and told them to stop pestering her son, because she is the one who needs to pester him a lot more than the sages do. And well, yeah. After that, Bell tells his mother what happened, and then his mother tells a bit of the story to the sages, and both Bell and his mother go back home. And also the two children which his mother had protected, Bell's mother essentially adopts them as her own children. So yeah. And also let's say that the boy, which is 2 years old, let's call him Olgi. Yes, that sounds like a good name. And the woman, let's call her Lana. Yes, that sounds pretty good for well, I believe those are Nordic names, since they were the first ones I got when I searched up Nordic fantasy names. So, I hope that they are. But anyways, Lana had a strong, how do you say it, affinity for, how do you say it? Right, here you go. For ice and water magic, while Ulgi was more of the type for just pure strength, which even though he was 2 years old, he could actually, if he punched Bell, yeah, he could do a fair bit of damage. So, yeah, at one point Bell even remarked that Ulgi was the son of giants. Foreshadowing. And, well, let's see. Lana's father was a human, while her mother was a fairy. Or, well, not a fairy, more like a spirit of ice and water. Actually, no, the spirit of winter. That sounds a bit more interesting. So, yeah, Lana's mother was the spirit of winter, while Ulgi's mother and father weren't per se giants, but more like half giants. Just so you guys know. And, well, as both of them are currently 2 years old, so they won't be contributing much to the story until like episode 3. So, yeah. But, well, let's see. I believe that this is a good enough way to end the first episode. I hope that you guys enjoyed, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.